Hello everyone, and welcome to this video. We are going to talk about being self-conscious. So we all have various ways that we are self-conscious. It's not like there's one way that all human beings will identify as being self-conscious in. But how do we deal with it? How do we get over it, and how do we become better people from the light fear that is self-conscious, sometimes extreme fear? Uh, it's very important for us as human beings to be able to see exactly who we are in relation to what people want us to be. So if somebody else wants us to have this certain talent, somebody else wants us to have this certain idea, somebody else wants us to have this certain belief, then we have to be able to respond with our individuality. So being self-conscious about something, you have to figure out what the root is. Is the root based in who you are and what you want to do, or based on the influences and expectations of others? How do you want to be? Being self-conscious is almost never a road to evolution spiritually. It is something that you must overcome. Now, the vast majority of the human race feels a certain level of being self-conscious about either this or that. Small things, big things, however you understand them. But for individual people, usually we blow up one thing that we're self-conscious about, whether it be having too much weight, or not looking this way, not looking that way, not having this certain degree, not being to this level of progress in one's life. These are all ways that we will feel self-conscious a lot of the time, and there's many other ways. But for us as spiritual beings, um, there's something very important that we have to realize. That this is only one life. This is only one effect in the multiverse from many causes. It doesn't mean that you as a person is any less because we are effects in a grander scope of things, in the fabric of reality itself. In fact, every single thread is important. There's no one thread of reality. There's no one thread of purpose that is non-important. But where people fall down is when they think that their thread is stronger and better than anyone else's. And being a human being, we feel like we have this great individuality. We can say who we are, what we are, and we suppose that this makes us more important than the life around us and everything that is happening in the cosmos, in the relationship between planets, meteors, and other things that we can currently detect. But that is not the case. Everything is in relation to everything else in a way that not only is everything necessary, but everything has already been expected. Now, who is expecting all the things that we are, and other people are, other things are, that who is within you. But deep down, the expectation is only because everything happens as it's supposed to happen. And then we might get to the argument, does free will exist? Yes, it definitely exists. But everything happens as it must. So let's go down to the nitty-gritty of being self-conscious. Let's go from the macro to the micro. I'm self-conscious about how much I weigh. Too much fat. Self-conscious about that. So I will act in certain ways. Perhaps I will think certain things. The reaction based on an insecurity is always one of the worst actions you can make. And actions not only happen externally, but they happen within the mind. And that's where they happen first. That's where actions happen before they ever reach our external body, something that we act upon. And that is why, me being self-conscious about being too fat or something like that, it really comes down to the idea that, okay, sure, if I feel like I'm overweight, then I have many options that I could take, working out the plan, working out the options. But if you're somebody who, well, most of us are like this, tears at themselves for this perceived inadequacy, then you will not produce a conclusion. You will produce a pain. That pain is only produced because a plan is not instituted and a neglect of self-love is also not embraced. Even if you feel a fault within yourself, it's very important to understand that fault, make an action plan. But before you understand the fault, try to figure out why you feel that way, then make an action plan, then actually act. Things within, the smallest of things, can blossom into monstrous terrors when it comes to our interactions with other people. Because the less we assess, the less we engage with and solve within ourselves, the more we will cause harm in the world. There's that old saying, there's that old saying that, if we understand ourselves, we'll understand the world. Or if we act within, then that's just as good as acting without. Being self-conscious, something we have to wrap up within ourselves and then perfect our mindset. And once we perfect our mindset, then we can send out and be a part of humanity. We can send out positive thoughts and be a part of humanity in a way that we couldn't be if we kept on doubting and hating and judging ourselves. So the best way to move forward always is to have a stoic mindset. Here's what I feel about my situation. Here's the situation, and here's how I resolve it. Most of the time, we enter emotions into these things, and that's what makes it hard to accomplish. But if you don't enter emotions into these things, or even if you do, but you become logical at the end, then it's far easier to see how you can move forward, rather than being told how to move forward or imagining that you have to move forward in a way that's unrealistic. Because being realistic with yourself, you're much less likely to be unrealistic in your actions. So when it comes to being self-conscious, don't. See that you have an inherent value that everyone else has. That you are someone who can move forward from who they were rather than fall back into who they weren't ultimately. And that anybody who judges you cannot. They don't have that right. Only you can decide from where you come to where you're going and who you are now. Without that guiding principle, without that value of yourself and a fighting back against any influence that tries to fight against who you are, or try to label you, or try to convince you you're other, then your life will be a dim and dark place. Vibrancy, presentness, mindfulness only exists when you see your self-worth and see that you're no different from all that is around you. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this helped. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, shoot it down in the comment section below. At any rate, thank you very much for watching, and hope to see all of you on the channel in the future.